Now it seems like we're good.
Okay.
We will master this eventually, probably.
Yeah, now that it's been weeks, we're getting it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mystical Mondays with Seaside Shadows. Tonight, you will have myself, Courtney, and Andrew as your host and hostess. We are doing a bit of a shorter Mystical Mondays tonight, just to provide you guys with some really important updates because we're super busy getting back and ready for phase 2 in a couple weeks. And we still wanted to touch base because we had some awesome segments this past week. So before we go forward with our big news about our reopening and what's next for Seaside Shadows, I just want to go over this week's segments, and you guys can send questions. For Witchy Wednesday, we did an Artemisia elixir that is currently still steeping. It has a 6-week steep time before we begin part 2 of the process, and that will be in our Seaside Shadows Magic store. And it's using the herb mugwort or wormwood, as you would call it, and has been known to have some incredibly healing effects and to be incredibly helpful for dreams and memory, as well as incredibly helpful for the female body. So that's what we started making on Witchy Wednesday, and you can see part 1, and we'll definitely make an announcement when we begin part 2 and when the final elixir is available. It's a lot of herbs and a lot of alcohol, which is actually what has been proven to help women in the past with these things. Such on our Salem tour, we feature one such lady who had similar elixir, and I want to go see if she used mugwort, and her name's Lydia Pinkham. And hopefully when we do our tour up there, you'll get to hear a bit about her. And then we had a very exciting weekend in Connecticut, in Eastern Connecticut, and 2 locations not terribly far from each other. The first was Cemetery Saturday at the Trumbull Cemetery in Lebanon, Connecticut, or some people still call it the Old Cemetery. And it's this beautiful cemetery on a hillside, and Declaration Signer William Williams is there, as well as Governor Jonathan Trumbull, the first governor of the state of Connecticut, transferring over from the colony, and one of the only politicians at the time who supported the Sons of Liberty and the American Revolution and the rebels, and had a very fascinating life, building the War Office and really contributing to the Patriot cause. And contributed a lot with very little financial means during his life, and had quite a notable family with his son, who became a famous 18th century artist, who's buried, I believe, in a notable cemetery you're familiar with. And then Spooky Stories Sunday, we had old school ghost story style, which is what Seaside Shadows is known for, with a story. I was just so excited about it. Mixes true crime and it mixes ghosts. And I'll let Andrew kind of recap that for you, and maybe his favorite part of the Governor Trumbull segment.
So the gay city hauntings, those were fascinating to learn about, and how disturbing all of the events were. To just think of my theory behind a potential serial killer at the time, with the skeleton remains that were found in the charcoal. I think it was a serial killer. 3 people go missing all at the same time, and they're like, well, this could be any of them. Like,
and there was this attempt to hide that one body and destroy the evidence, which was more than the norm. If this was just a peddler, we've had stories like that before. Our Patreon subscribers got a special story about Franklin's bloody apples, where a peddler was murdered and buried under a tree in nearby Franklin, Connecticut, and then it turned the apples bloody. For years to come, the apples would bleed because the peddler was buried underneath there. And it was around the same time, too, that that peddler was murdered in nearby Franklin. So that also was interesting on your serial killer theory. And the blacksmith apprentice in your story that gets murdered so viciously, carved up are the words, or his head completely taken off. But the viciousness of it for just arriving late to your apprenticeship seems a little extreme. Is that not really what happened?
I have to believe there was something else going on with the blacksmith, because that's just a really weird trigger to lose it like that, like so completely that you forget yourself to the point where you cut off a young man's head. Like that's,
yeah. And an apprentice is also learning for their own benefit, so you wouldn't be completely dependent on them. So something is off for this blacksmith. And even the murders come after people refused to live there, thinking the devil caused the water to go uphill. He caused the land to be infertile. The only way they could get people to go to church there was by providing copious amounts of alcohol and getting drunk. And, 2020, that's probably a good idea. But back then, people were,
to be honest.
Back then people were a little more conservative about their church attendance. So that was, unexpected. And then all these sightings, everyone's like, it's this beautiful state park. And all I kept thinking when we picked this segment was state parks have been filled to capacity. That's where everyone is. I bet people are noticing the ghosts more. And this part of me wants to see the man in the woods holding his head, and then doesn't. But like,
even just imagining it is enough to like send chills down my spine.
Yeah, I think I don't know what you would say, Andrew, but I would say it warrants a definite investigation on our part.
I mean, I have mixed feelings about seeing the apprentice, but if we can talk to them and get a little bit more information about like what the hell was going on with the blacksmith at the time, but then even like it goes back to the original founding of the town. Within 4 years, the founder had got packed up and walked into the wilderness, is the exact quote.
He's probably still out there. And in addition to that, like the strange founding of it, and then, the murders, the consistency of these peddlers, I guess, because they're easy, they're on the road, maybe people won't notice or know where they were when they went missing. That makes them an easy target.
All of the victims of the killings, other than the apprentice, at least of the specific killings we talked about, were travelers. There was the peddler, the traveling preacher, and the drover. And so all three wouldn't have had established bases. They would have been known enough to be like, hey, I haven't seen that guy in a while, but not enough to really, like, again, it took like a long time for them to eventually search for these people to the point where the remains had become skeletal.
Right. And it's funny to me, maybe a peddler's living a dangerous life in that way, but how are they all meeting their end here?
Yeah.
Like, that seems, this is the only place that somebody wants to rob them of their money. This is the only place where people feel, without giving away the Bloody Apples story, subscribe to Patreon to get the full one. in that one, the man was just tired of trying to be sold goods that he couldn't afford, and that's why he murdered him. Um, so, that's an. I guess if you're just going to keep knocking on his door, I don't know how many times the peddler went. Who's to say that we all reach a breaking point? I maybe can get that. But how come in gay city Hebron, this is the only area where the peddlers want to be robbed? Because there's no history of it being historically a poor area. The people that come and settle it have these grants and some means. But even I wonder if there's underlying bad juju, and you addressed this last night as well, from the fact that 2 families founded it, and one of them is completely neglected by name, and they were actually the first family there.
Yeah, it's called Gay City, but it wasn't the gays that founded it. I mean, they were among the founding families, but they were not alone.
They were second to the Sumners, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and they're completely left out. So that was
the locals at the time called it both Factory Hollow and Sumnerville. And
then they completely got omitted.
Yeah, when it became a state park was the first time that the Gay City name really was cemented.
And the other interesting thing is factories was their ideal for thriving, and that's what Connecticut was known for, especially going into the 1800s. Our factories. If you couldn't have something else, at least you were really good at industry and providing manufacturing for other areas. And yet they still managed to have the closure of these factories. They couldn't even have those thrive. So there's definitely, we talk about curses, and one thing, I've noticed, Andrew, and specifically for some reason, you get these segments where there tends to be proof that places or people can maybe carry some sort of curse with them that follows them. We had the curse of Samuel Colts. We have this.
I really hope it's not the universe trying to be like, I'm telling you something.
Clearly, they're just trying to set you on the path to research cults or curses.
Yeah.
Curses. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, you can research cults, but they might be cursed too. But I
was going to say there's definitely connections there.
Oh man! And then Governor Jonathan Trumbull. Hopefully, he wasn't cursed, though. I do feel like
it. I mean, while doing the research for Trumbull, I was surprised at the similarities between him and Colt and even Carrier. Mm-hmm. Like they all had a lot of similar afflictions and ailments. Like both Colt and Trumbull lost very close family members by suicide, by hanging. And it's like that. Hopefully it wasn't that big of a thing at the time. But these 2 huge historical figures both suffered those tragedies, and they lived very similar in era.
And it could be that people, suicide is one of the most common ways for people to die. And we're a little more aware of that. Excuse me. We're a little more aware of that now. We're just starting to talk about mental health in 2020 and the seriousness of suicide. However, I think this proves the point that it wasn't discussed, that it was a taboo subject for so long. And so maybe it's not that it was in an abundance, but now we're finding out about it. Now it's getting talked about. And it does add the tragedy, but it also shows the proof of how we are as humans and how these things can impact us no matter what time we're living in or where we are, who we are, that we can have this in our lives. And I do feel like for Governor Jonathan Trumbull, one of the things that if we were to say a curse is he gave so much. He gave of his property, his goods, his family. he seems like he was a very generous man, and he committed himself to what he believed in, which is what we strive to do as people, right? Commit to what we believe in and be good to others. Yet the poor man is known partially for dying broke and having all these other problems. And like, why? Why didn't karma come back for him in the good way?
And how is he not, like, basically in the same breath as George Washington when talking about integral and key figures to our founding of our country?
Yes.
This man dedicated 60% of the things used in the Civil War, manpower, munitions, clothing, food. It all came from Connecticut.
The Revolutionary War, right? Yes.
The Revolutionary War, yes.
Yeah.
So, excuse me.
No, you're fine.
It all came from him.
Yeah.
Like, how is he not known for that?
Basically, comes to Governor Jonathan Trumbull, gives Connecticut the nickname the Provision State. He's the ultimate supplier. And then, that sets the tone later. Samuel Colt follows in the Provision State footsteps because he provides the ammunition and weaponry during the Civil War. And then, Trumbull started really being one of the lead provision suppliers for the American Revolution, especially being one of the only political figures to support the cause. And it kind of shows what's at the heart of Eastern Connecticut as a patriot territory too. And a lot of that links back to him. So he's incredible, and I think really understated. And a lot of people pay attention to his son, which is amazing. His son's an amazing artist, but people forget the governor.
And there is also the other Jonathan Trumbull, who was also a governor of Connecticut.
Yes.
So there was Jonathan Jr. and John.
Yes. It's a little confusing.
My family, to be honest.
But they all left their impact, and that's, it's my family too. My dad's name is John, and I looked at the family tree and like, oh, cool, 6 generations back, we're still the same name. Like, that really helps me.
My cousin is John the Third. My uncle is John Jr., and my grandfather is John. So literally reminds me of my family.
Yeah. So if we don't know someone's name, we're going to call him John.
He's probably John, right?
Yeah, we have good odds. So yeah, I think we covered, and it was a beautiful week. All our segments, we had good weather, and we covered everything from the Artemisia Elixir and to the fascinating Governor Jonathan Trumbull. And
all the way to Gay City murders.
The haunted true crime in Hebron, Connecticut. If you missed any of these episodes that we're talking about, you can see them on our Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram pages. You can, start over. We started a couple weeks into quarantine around early April.
So many episodes out now.
Yeah, for most of them. Yeah, we've been doing it pretty much 4 days a week for at least 2 months on them all, and longer on some, especially Spooky Story Sunday. I think there's about 11 of those out now. Yeah. And Cemetery Saturdays have about 10, and I believe the Witchy Wednesdays are around 9 or 10. So this is honestly the shortest, and I think we're on episode 8 tonight, something along those lines.
I think something like that, yeah.
So you have about 2 months minimum of each series. You
can sit down and binge watch us as content.
Yes, you can pick which series and pick a night each week that you want to watch. And the really cool thing is none of the content that we have produced over the past 2 months, 2.5 months, 3 months, so whatever it may be, is content from our walking tours. So when you come to see us in person, all the content from the boat tours, the walking tours, anything you'll be able to do with us will still be completely unique. The segments are, a lovely Connecticut supplement but don't take away from the experiences that we provide. So that's really exciting for us too in our research, but don't worry about that. We probably, as we phase into reopening, which we're about to discuss, you will see a more limited virtual segments because we will be back at doing more in-person activities, which is what we've been eager to do, and we hope you'll come see us. But we will still work to have virtual content in some capacity that's available. It will probably be less free available, though still some. And then, the other virtual content you will still be able to get, but it will be available on our Patreon through subscription. And starting at just $10 a month, you can get in, special videos and segments sent to your email inbox. And starting at $30 a month, you can get special videos and segments and personalized medium and psychic readings. So not a bad deal. And then you'll have a little monthly subscription that will keep you through. And there's also discounts on our walking tours available to subscribers as well, so that you can get a discount when you come to see us in person. So it's definitely something to look forward to. And also within the next 2 weeks, our new website will be out, and we've gotten a preview and it's looking beautiful. And you may remember, yes, and you may remember last week we said, Shelby, my sister, she has to answer. She answered, and she's working on it, and it's looking fabulous. So that will be launching in the next few weeks. We are also working with an amazing apparel designer out of Massachusetts called Dark Side Inc., who is helping design some fabulous Seaside Shadows apparel and other unique things that will be available in a few weeks as well. So you have the excitement of coming to see us in person soon, a new website and apparel, and we're going to have a full online store with all our witchy magic stuff, all coming to you by the beginning of July. Now, yeah, so much kind of in the fire, and we're excited about. Now, the big thing to talk about are tours. So we're going to take this one by one by one. One, we promised you guys a virtual Salem tour. Even with reopening, that will still happen. Again, we are waiting on the licensing to come in, and you guys will be the first to know when it does. Number two, and most importantly, our Mystic walking tours, the heart of what we do, our home base, our original downtown ghost walk, and our cemetery tours of Whitehall Burial Ground will be coming back July 3rd. That's a Friday, July 3rd. So for 4th of July weekend, mark your calendars. That's when our summer spooky strolls begin. And we are doing them at this time on Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays for July and August. Those tickets are available on seasideshadows.com right now, and they will be available on the new website, but you can go ahead and book right now on our current website, and you'll have your tickets for opening weekend or for the summer. As we get further into the summer, we will have tickets up for the fall, which will have a much more extensive schedule. We are still planning on having paranormal investigations and special events at this time. We're hoping that that will be allowed, especially in phase 3, the bigger events will be. But right now in phase 2, we are allowed to do walking tours. These are the musts that you need to know about the walking tours. You must wear a mask when you come. We will have hand sanitizer available. And if you do not have a mask, we will have masks available for you. You must stand 6 feet apart from other guests and 12 feet apart from your tour guide. Why? Because your tour guide needs to talk to you for 2 hours. Thus, we can't wear a mask and project as well as we'd like. Yeah, so you need to stand 12 feet away from us, and we stand 12 feet away from you. You will have a table at check-in, which will be a paperless check-in. You just give your name so that there's no exchange. We're working on setting up a digital tip system There will be the hand sanitizer and everything available so that you can have a very safe experience with us in July and August. And hopefully by the fall, things will be doing better and that there will be even less that goes into coming. But we did talk to the Ledge Light Health District, and they assured us that outdoor activities such as ours are one of the safest things that you can do. Being outside, transmission of COVID-19 is very difficult. So we are excited that we're one of the safer activities that will be coming back July 3rd. We're coming back to you. A small delay from the grand reopening of Connecticut tomorrow, because we did have to get a little bit of supplies to make sure we were completely compliant, and those are en route, and we wanted to make sure we had everything planned. Now, I know that we mentioned we have new Mystic tours coming back, or possibly this year as well. We're working on it, but again, a lot of meetings have been pushed back and delayed. But our original Downtown Mystic Ghost Walk and our Mystic Graveyard Ghost Stroll of Whitehall Burial Ground will be back. The downtown tours will be on Fridays during the summer, and the graveyards on Saturdays and Sundays at 8. In the fall, tour times go up to 7, and you'll see more tours available. And we're still hoping to do our special events with John Zaffis and perhaps some of the Daniel Packer Inn. But again, we will address that as more rules come into the fall. So that addresses, there will still be a virtual Salem tour, and the downtown and Mystic Graveyard tours come back July 3rd, and they're bookable now at seasideshadows.com. Really exciting. Now for the boat tours, there is not going to be a boat tour on July 3rd. There is still a water taxi in New London, but they have a limited capacity into what they are able to take on the boat at a time. And as such, it's not effective for a tour group because we can't be spaced out on the boat 6 feet apart, or there's not very many people on the boat, like I said. We're hoping that phase 3 that launches at the end of July will allow us to do our first boat tour in August. Those tickets are up for August, September, and 2 boats in October. We are still gearing up and preparing and ready for 4 ghost boats this year. So you can book those online as well. So that's Salem, Mystic, and the Ghost Boats. You will also see on our website and on the new website a link to subscribe to Patreon. So if you're not ready to join us in person, you have health concerns you're worried about people in your life that could be susceptible to COVID. You maybe have been in areas where the numbers are higher and you're just not ready to go in a group of people. That is okay. That's what these segments we've been producing are for. And it's for all of us when we're not able to do that. And the Patreon will allow you to subscribe and still get content to you until you can join us again. So that's something that we really encourage. And there will be links for on our site as well. Private tours are also always available. If you'd, prefer that it's just you and your family, go with one of us in Mystic and not walk with any other groups. You just contact us on our website or seasideshadowsct@gmail.com, and we will arrange a private tour for you that's just you and your family, or you and your loved one, whoever it may be, we'll arrange that for you. So we are ready to go back and ghost walk. The ghosts are ready, and we'll do whatever we can to make sure that you are safe and we are safe and compliant. So that is our plan going forward. Safe public ghost walks July 3rd, private tours available, digital content available, and we're excited for Seaside Shadows to be back and better than ever. It's going to be so great. We're so excited.
It's been too long. I'm so antsy to get out again.
I know. We had one weekend, and it was around that very precarious time when people started really realizing that COVID had come here, to the US and to Connecticut. And I remember specifically, we launched on Friday, the 13th of March, and we did a tour that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 13th, 14th, 15th. So we had 3 tours this year. They were very small. A lot of people at that time were starting to get the news and rescheduling, or, holding their tickets for a future vacation. So we had those 3 small tours. And then the shutdown of our tours and many other businesses came on March 20th, just 5 days after we gave, the 3rd tour of opening weekend. So we haven't been out in 3 months with our ghosties, and we miss everyone. And I imagine the ghosts are wondering what the heck we're doing. Where are those people that come and talk loudly about us? So we'll be there, and they'll perhaps be pleased because we will have to use voice amplifiers since we'll be standing a little further apart. So we're really excited. We love what we do. We love history, mystery, and hosting. So we're so pumped for phase 2, and we're gonna make it as exciting and fun and safe as humanly possible. But please know, we've talked with all the proper people. Outdoor activities, spaced apart, is the safest way for you to have an enjoyable entertainment experience right now. So please do join us when you're ready, and we'll be ready for you. As for tonight's Mystical Monday, we're going to wrap it up. You can send us any questions on our segments or on the reopening to our Facebook page, to our email on our website, whatever the case may be, and we will get back to you. Now, I will not be here on next week's or part of the following week's segments, but you are in good hands. Andrew and Laura have some amazing segments coming up for you over the next week and a half. The only segment that may be missing prior to our reopening is a Mystical Monday next week, but you will still have Witchy Wednesday, Cemetery Saturday, and Spooky Story Sunday. So please tune in for those. There's some exciting things coming on tap, and we love you all and miss you, and thank you again.